Chan, founder and CEO of AAL Innovation. If you haven't checked out, there is an amazing series Adeline moderated recently, and it has like the best speakers on AI architecture. So, highly recommended for you guys to check it out. So, I'm really happy to host you. Thanks for being on the show. Uh,
Thanks so much.
so, for people who don't know you, Uh, can you share a bit about your background, where you grew up, and your early career days?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me here. Yes, and I've seen your series of different podcast interviews with Neil as well on your YouTube, and it's amazing what you're doing. And yourself, what you're doing as well is super amazing. So I'm really happy to have this conversation with you. So about myself, I'm not surprised if nobody knows me because I think honestly I haven't been looking at AI for that long, and but I'll go from the beginning. So at first, actually my first career was an athlete. I was representing the national taekwondo team in competitions, and I wanted to be an athlete for a longer period of time. But then, due to some injuries and some incidents, I then retired after my involvement, my competition in the Olympic qualifiers in 2016, and after that, I was more focused on architecture. So yeah, and then I had my education at HKU at University of Hong Kong, based in Hong Kong as well. I would like to say. I would say it was more of a traditional architecture's education, if that makes sense. Meaning, I wasn't particularly interested in computational design or the technology, the program. I was very much interested in good old form finding, that kind of thing. But I would say that I've always very fascinated with architecture, and I wanted to become an architect. Even though I wanted to become an athlete, I've always been interested in architecture, right? So what happened after my studies was reality. So of course, there's a reality hits with thing most of my peers. And what happened was that I realized was taught at school and what I was thinking that I would become was not really what gonna happen. And I had that reality when I worked in a large company, and we were then working on a mixed use, large scale mixed use complexes in mainland China. So it's as real as it can be. And that maybe I would to be more like a draftsman, let's say, or more like a doing laborious kind of stuff. And then I also thought, why is this so laborious? What's going on here? There's something off. Anything that one, but that is just actual that there's so much. The big part of an architect's role today, or architectural designer's role today, and anyway, I thought that there was a problem. I identified it, but I didn't really know what kind of solution there would be. Then the next experience I had was actually I became a director of a small company. We had three partners, and I was the director in Hong Kong. We had other offices in Monaco and in Europe, but essentially we were both hospitals in Africa. So I was more of I had my minor shares in that company, and but since my role was a director, I was managing the people kind of on a daily basis, managing the team, and that was such a humbling experience because being 26 at that time and managing a people um, just kind of taught me that a few things. One is, oh, so this is how money is earned. or like an architectural set. This is how business works. Now I understand. Thing was that okay, managing a team or being any kind of managerial role means being the lowest actually. It actually means like having other people's needs in front of yours. And that was such a humbling experience because at first I thought, great, I like, ask everyone to do stuff, but no, actually everyone's problems became your problems. So anyway, that experience came to an end. It was actually that triggered my current career trajectory. And I can share. Uh, and please stop me if I'm talking too much. I feel like I'm just flowing a little bit here. um, so there was one time I met with a client and in Vietnam actually. And we were talking potentially about working together on a sports center. Right. So it was great. We were having a conversation, going really well. Then just around mid-journey, I tinkled and I, the prompt, open entry. And then I said to the client, you know what? Maybe I can use Midjourney AI to create concepts, images for you. How about that? And he's like, whoa, what is this? This sounds so cool. AI. I would love to get to know more. And I said, yeah, we can do something like that. So what happens was that he is very well off and he doesn't really need to work, like a day job or anything like that. So it's a lot of time. So then he said, Midjourney, I'm going to download it or install it, sign up on Discord, and you can tell me how to do it. I showed him a few things. Now, 2 weeks later, I think, he then came back with some images. They're not perfect, but they are looking like a sports center. And he said, I think this is really good. This is exactly what I want. And I'm just going to go ahead and go with them. I have a contractor in Vietnam. There aren't that many, restrictive regulations. I'm just going to go ahead and ask them to draw up construction drawings immediately. And then I was like, yeah, okay, cool, good for you. And then he said, yeah, it's really nice knowing you. And that was the experience when I understood, okay, so when the laborious task or when a potentially repetitive portion of the design or that part of the concept design can be kind of replaced by AI or replaced by the client himself using AI, where does the architect stand? And as you can imagine, I had around but I basically had to reevaluate what am I doing? Oh, is the connection working?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
cool.
yes.
So I had to
Yeah.
yes, cool. I had to understand the whole thing. Like, what did I study all an architect? And what is, I began to invest with AI. I would say I was listening to podcasts about AI when I go to bed, and then when I wake up, when I take the train, I'm listening. So my at that time my relationship with the company had ended with my previous company in good terms, and then I then decided that I'm just going to invest 2 months of my own time on my
Mm.
own, and I'm just going to absorb as much as I can on the internet. What is AI? How is it impacting architecture right now? How does that judge the role of architect? What can I do next? Then I saw this job at Automata, looking for a project research AI. I said, great, I'll do it. And when I got into that role, I also became immersed and started to like build a connection with all these cool people that then came on to, and from there brought more connection. Now it's like at the same time. Currently, one is AAL Innovation, and then the other is with my other business partner, Artosa, which I can explain a bit more. Um, but I would say that I can see now clearly after that existential struggle take roles in AI. So first, there are the designers who are going to use AI to design. That's layer number one.
Hmm.
Then there are the designers who are designing the workflow, designing the copy, notes, and computational design. There are those designers. Then another role that people can take is to teach. To the education market is very big. To teach how to make these workflows, or teach how to use AI to design, not just to architects, could be to everyone. And then the fourth layer, which is actually, in my opinion, most sustainable, most scalable, is who are able to marketplaces, actions, generative AI. So with this in my head, I'm along and so no, that's right. I will shut up.
No, no, this is amazing. Actually, it the roles you mentioned, clearly, like I was thinking about it earlier as well. So it's i- in a category format. I like it's the first category you mentioned who leverage AI. It's like no code, just use Discord Mid Journey. Second is low code, like using Comfy UI, just like Grasshopper visual scripting. And third is like high code, where you train the model, you build the tools. So it's kind of,
Yeah, that's a good way to group them, categorize. Yeah, different
yeah.
layer.
But I'm really curious to know about your second startup. That's I didn't know about that. Okay, can can you
Yeah,
share?
it's yeah, of course. I'm working with a computer science genius. The work that's been on the platform where that has forth that this belongs to be a place where people want to turn a process. Well, this does restrict to architects or architecture. Similarly, is a baby between Shopify and Fiverr,
Mm,
where merchants who would like to sell their generative AI services or products can come on, and they would receive their customized instead of option, which Shopify produce, and flows, which go to more on launch. The other hand, like someone who wants to make art for of all the different services provided by the the artist. On top of provide art where people got to learn these things, basically literally help designers from to design where there's, because that's going to greatly help them with efficiency and profitability. I think so. Yeah, those yes. So that is the SL innovation. It's very much more on the layer where hands-on my team have been working on F&B projects, um, working with the client directly on what they want and providing brainstorming, rendering. In very short 1 to 2 week span of time, we can produce like images for them and concepts. So it's that sort of work. Currently, we're working also on generations, saving a lot of costs and time for the client. So we're moving towards that. So that is AAL innovation. And the two of them, I think, on two different roles, as I was saying, among the four, that if we can clarify in such a way.
that's amazing. So like, Now I want to know, how many hours do you sleep? Do you have enough time for all this?
That is such a good question. Sometimes I don't sleep that much, yes.
Damn.
Yeah, yeah,
And also
absolutely.
traveling for work, it also takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. On this note, I would say, the more I venture into this unknown, I suppose, this, I guess I would say entrepreneurship, the more I feel like, as cheesy as it sounds, it's the people that you know that's the most important, because I know my limitations and my capabilities, and the fact that I didn't have a bachelor's or master's in data science or computer science. But if I know someone who can do it, and if we work well together, we can still do all the things that I imagine, and I can bring in my efforts as well. So actually, other than those two startups, there are other two ideas growing in the background, and also with people who are fantastically amazing and talented. And I feel like I can come and bring in my energy and my thoughts and my business ideas and my architectural sense, and that just kind of grow and grow and grow together. So complaints whatsoever. It's okay even if I'm not sleeping that much. Feel like this is like a such a to do this sort of thing, right? I can't
Yeah.
imagine what it would be like 1 to 2 years later. I might be missing the chance already. So I really can't complain.
Yeah, like to your point, this is the time where, like, the fourth category is building tools that shape the people using it. So if you want, like, great way to contribute to the industry, and like, also like the biasness is there in all this AI tools. So like, okay,
Yeah.
how do you consider that? uh Before, like, moving on, like, I wanted to know, you mentioned about the days when you were having like a crisis and you were listening to podcasts day in day out. How, how would you advise a person going through that phase right now, who feel that they don't know anything, but also they want to get knowledgeable in this area?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I would say that if that person has intention to get to know more, or um, has this intention to change because they feel frustrated of a problem and they think this can be a solution, I what I would give is my entire 100% encouragement that go and do it. Like, immerse yourself, drown yourself in all the information that you have. It's a little extreme, but what I mean is, like, at your in your lunch, if you're working on a 9 to 5, at your lunchtime, listen to podcasts. We have so many different kinds of ways that we can listen to Mayer's podcast, like, for example. We have so many different kinds of medium get information right now. There are articles, there are online courses, there are there are books out there. I would say self educate, because actually most of the things that I learned had been learned on my own instead of someone teaching me. And this has no offense to the institutions out there, no offense to the education that I had. I'm very grateful for it. But the truth best when I want to learn it. There's a reason why I want to learn it, and I learn it in my own way. So I have symptoms of ADHD. I've always grown up with like not being able to focus, and also either being hyper focused on something, or I just can't really focus on something for long periods of time. I don't do well when I sit for a very long time, and I actually work the best when I have 3 to 4 projects together and I'm working all on all 3 to 4. So therefore, my way of learning is would be quite different to someone who's quite happy to sit and to learn for like 5 hours in one go. Who knows? Find your own way, ethics, and it's totally fine if someone doesn't clear goals of what they want to do with the things that they learn. Just that's
Mm,
what I would say.
I see. And if I were to boil down, like, three specific things which taught you the most, like, can you, what was those?
Three specific things in
Like,
AI or in general.
yeah, in AI, like resources, be it podcasts, videos, courses, like what were three things where you,
Okay.
after that, you felt like, oh, now I know much more about this?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Um. Okay. So metric architecture. So shout out to Hamid, whom I've interviewed in one of my discussion series. So I find that platform to be very resourceful. Some of them are completely for free and some of them are paid, but the education there is very good and everything's recorded. So um, yeah, I would go back and to learn it myself. Yeah, so that is the first one that I thought of immediately. The second one is a book that I read. It's called I think it's called Human Plus Machines. I read it 1 year ago, I think. Human Plus Machines, and it's a big chunky book, but very I read quite a quick time as well, and it allowed me to understand that not just in architecture but in all industries, um, with the help of machine, with the help of artificial intelligence, um, everything moves smoother, quicker. And what I understood was that this is evolution, so don't fight it. This is evolution of humankind to take on artificial intelligence in the development of humankind. Um, and that was like a wake up for me, I would say. Yeah. I'd say the third one is Stephen Bartlett's
Ooh,
podcast. So on, yeah, I love him. On He had a couple of episodes on AI, right? He was interviewing people from Google and also Lex Friedman as well. He was interviewing Sam Altman, and those I kind of like listened to them, more than once, for sure, just to kind of understand not just what AI can do right now to people, but also what we can do with AI. So these fantastic business-minded people leveraging AI. I think most architects come out to think that they're going to be masterminded artists. I was one once upon a time, but the truth is, this world actually works in business. So are we able to also put on a business hat to think, okay, at the end of the day, architecture is a service industry. Are we able to provide services to clients and also be if yes, can we also leverage AI in doing that? And why the hell not? Right. So yeah, I think with those three that I just mentioned, I then, came closer to my conclusion or closer to like a more clearer path for myself.
got it. And there are so many like breakthroughs in AI like happening every
Mhm.
month. There's so many changes. So, what are your thoughts on how the design education should evolve, or like what should the school teach the new generation of architects?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I have some thoughts about that. So as I returned back to the university to be a project associate, I also began to teach some courses, journey stable diffusion and logix. And I could see that students who were a little younger had different outcomes and thoughts versus students who were, in their masters, right? And then I was also giving workshops to um, companies as well as faculty. And I also saw that they had a very different mindset. So basically, what my conclusion would be if you have an architectural background, and in fact, if you have more life experiences, the way you prompt and the way you think, the way you're able to judge the image output is going to be a lot more mature than
Hmm.
if you hadn't, if a high schooler have done it, right? So I think I wanted to bring that up to point out that not to say people should start using it later or earlier, but rather perhaps there should be some kind of guidance on what kind of mindset you have when you are using AI, not just on um, image generations, but on floor plan generations or optimization? What kind of mindset do you have? And I think ultimately, with what I just described, like parametric architecture being such a good or alike, right? Being such a good online education platform, I would question, okay, then what about the institutions other than the licensing, right? Other than the licensing that it can ultimately give to the students, what else can they provide? Other than the tools that people can already learn online. And I say it's teach the architects or students about the business side of things. I think that's, and at least for me, I haven't really had that kind of guidance when I was younger. I was never taught really like how to do an elevator pitch for a client, and maybe that is becoming more and more important, right? To point out is that with AI involved, the structure of a company is no longer the same. Like in the
Mm.
past, we have small size, mid size, and large scale companies. Like, there are well known Foster and Partners, well known Zaha Hadid, and they are going to still be very strong because they have their data set. They can make their own AI clouds, right? And they're still going to go strong. And the small size companies are going to be able to be very flexible. They're with two people in a company, like my own company, we have two to three people. We're able to do things which maybe 10 people can do, but we're doing it with AI. But what about the mid-sized companies? The
Mm.
companies where they have very hierarchical structures, like where they have directors, associates, and associate architects and senior architects. Do you really need that many people in a team when an architectural assistant and an architectural designer can basically finish off the entire stage of the project using AI? That's a question that I have. And that relates back to the educational system. Do you want the architects, the students to be an architectural assistant, and do you want them to draw toilets for a while in IDAS or Arab, and do you want them to draw floor plans when the AI can do 20 iterations in 5 seconds? Do you really want to prepare them for that? So that would be my question. Yeah, like in terms of how we're preparing them for the future, for their career trajectory. And the challenge right now for everyone is that we're not very sure what that's going to be like. Is everyone going to be an entrepreneur? Is everyone going to start up and have like two to three people in their own team? Going to become an extremely competitive marketplace? Maybe. So I just see that this is all changing. And whoever their students, even from students from my own high school, like reaching out through the alumni committee, asking me about architecture, and I would say the same. Like there are so many unknowns, but just be really open minded, accessible.
I see. So, Adeline, you mentioned right now about leveraging AI that can make like a 2% team productive as 10 or 50, like medium size. So that's the operational productive aspect. What about a business aspect, finding clients? How do you teach students on that aspect? And like from your journey, what have you learned?
Right. That is such a good question. I think it would make a lot of sense for me if in the curriculum there are classes where um would take if they taught not just putting together elevations, um, reflector ceiling plans, and axonometrics. Not only that, even though that is one big part of architecture, not just the drawings, but also, do you know what a market size is? Do you know what a business model is? Do you know what it means to be profitable? Do you know how to do a cash flow? That sort of skills, I think, are skills that I had to pick up as I hit the ground running. And a lot of them I'm still learning. I'm still trying to absorb knowledge in terms of, okay, how to set up things like I own like how to set up a company and insurance, that sort of thing, which thankfully through my REBA architect license, I've gotten to touch upon that. But I would say it would be so beneficial to architectural students if they can also have the chance to take a course on that, perhaps, and to understand, you know, that side of things. I would
I
say that would be great.
And what is something you learned the hard way?
Um, something I learned a hard way. I think something probably I can share too. One is that in my previous practice, when I was beginning to become more mature as a person in terms of managing roles and such like that, I learned the hard way about how are your. So I began to realize that even in a small team, there could be a lot of different kinds of opinions, a lot of different kinds of needs, a lot of different kind of wants. And I think what is important for me as a manager then that to make sure not to make sure everyone gets what they want, but also to think as a team what's best for each individual. Now that's a bit vague, but maybe I should just give an example of what I truly believe now. Um, I don't really believe in asking people to sit long periods of time in a chair and to, basically in the contract have like a. I
Mm,
just don't believe in that. I just don't think they're the most productive. I don't think they're the happiest. I just don't think that should be the norm. The especially as I was explaining how I like to do things, right? I very much like to manage my own time and I'm more productive that way. So in my current practice, in my current company, I do not ask people to become my employee. Everything is on a collaborative basis, on a consultancy basis. And everyone is their own product/slash project manager where they can take ownership and that's how they can be happy. I don't want my employees or people I work with to be unhappy. And that's kind of what I learned hard way in my last office. Whereas I'm stuck in a position where I want my company to work, but it seems like people are not happy sitting in a chair for a long period of time trying to be productive. Maybe the solution would be to give them a more flexible way of working. Yeah,
mm,
like for example, digital nomads like yourself, I'm sure you're productive or more productive than you would be if you're stuck in an office, of course. So not saying that everyone now should, be a digital
mm,
nomad, but I'm just saying that perhaps some flexibility, like 2 weeks from home, 3 weeks at the office, or totally working from home, and everyone just performance based, time based instead of contract. I would say actually might be the way for at least for myself. So I learned that the hard way. And a second thing I learned the hard way was people's insurance, like staff insurance, because I actually had to represent my company to go to court. Why we to give at that time insurance. It was purely because we didn't know there was that insurance that we had to get. We already got him the other one, but we missed out the one other one. So anyway, we had to get a lawyer to explain to us. And this I thought, oh, it's kind of our fault for not flushing this detail out. And that also made me understand setting up a company. Yes, anyone can do that, but there are so many things that actually need to be learned and to be understood that I have to learn from other people, not from architects, but learn from my company secretary or learn from my lawyer, learn from my business mentor now, So all those things that I learned the hard way.
yeah, that's such a great insight. And like, I think entrepreneurship teaches you to deal with unknowns and like stay calm and sane because there's so many things that
Yeah,
could go wrong. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I see. So let's say we are in 2030. How a day in an architect's life look like?
Well, that's such a good question. Given the knowledge that I've gained from Wan Yuhe, who is CEO of Xcool. I understood that in 2040, with totally manipulating the entire AEC industry, that would be 2030 would be 10 years before that happens. So I would assume that in 2030, half of the current roles might be AI or could be totally done by AI.
I
Yeah.
see. So if you can be a specific, like, okay, you did all the task, is AI augmented, then architect is coming to desk, or they're just at their home on the message asking an AI agent, okay, do the construction drawing, like,
Yeah.
help us
Yeah. I think,
imagine.
yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I lost for a
Yeah. I
second.
can paint a picture. Um, oh, yeah. No worries. I think we're back now. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think a couple of things. AI will most probably, with ChatGPT 4.0 coming out, right? Like that came out, it can already do so much, and it's only been such a short period of time. So I would say in 6 years' time, most probably, for example, the manager in a architect sorry in the client in the developer's company, the manager probably might just need the GPT or AI to help with the project management side of things. And they might not have any kind of consultant whatsoever. They might have all the kind of MEP structure, electrical, architectural, landscape, civil. Maybe everyone is in-house because all of those roles might just need to be one person, might just need to be one manager. And instead of managing a team, they're managing the AI and kind of collecting the information using AI. I'm really not surprised if that is the case. And I would say maybe an architect would be the architect's client, sorry, the client's architect, right, in-house. And this architect could be, as you say, like maybe saying, um, oh, we're back. And maybe this artist is just sitting at home and working with the AI and maybe having like weekly meetings with the clients. I'm really not surprised because um, I think there's still a gap between from text prompt to 3D, right? That is the biggest gap we have now. We have text to image, then we have just within the BIM model itself optimization, machine learning, and there's a gap in between that. But that gap is going to soon be filled up, and when that happens, I think what would it mean would be the market, the industry is going to change so drastically that I think the developers or whoever is the one, the clients, the consumer, they will not they won't really need to outsource that many tasks to external consultants unless they are trying to get a brand, right? Like maybe Saha. It's almost like getting a Prada bag. Now that's another thing. Like all the people who have been farmers in the past have now switched jobs, right?
Mm.
That's one thing that I think. And were there horse riders in the past? Like taxi drivers in the past are like horse riders. What do they do now, right? And are there still horse riders today? In today's time, yes, there are, but they are very bespoke. They're very special, and you would only find a horse rider for your service if like someone's getting married and they want something special, like ceremonial. Like I can only think of that example for now. So what I mean is, the whole entire scope is going to change, and you've mentioned 2030. That's only 6 years from now, And I'm not surprised at all if we're already there, the way I described it. And in 2040, it's going to be even more augmented that I can't really wrap my head around it just yet. But I've been told by Wan Yu that, with AIGC, with AGI, um, who knows what might still be there. And to be very honest, the four roles that I just spoke to you about, maybe it's just a marketplace that remains, and we don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, it's a great time to be alive because there's so much things to be built. I don't know if
Yeah,
AGI like,
exactly.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what from the seminar series you organize? What, according to you, were the three biggest ideas you took away from interviewing such an incredible list of people?
Mm. Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. I had such a good time with everyone. Um, so I think it's hard to narrow down to three, but I think one would be the realization that in 2040 everything is AGI and industry. Like this is one use um forecast, right? That's number one. Um, I think oh, 1 second, sorry. No, thank you. Okay, thank you. Sorry. So, and the second one was I really liked uh Arturo Tedeschi's title of his lecture, which is combinational creativity, and he kind of relates how we're using AI for image or content generation with how we used to associate things together. So it's an associative creative process when we are associating, merging, combining, blending a few different architectural concepts together, and the AI helps us to synthesize it. I thought, wow, that's such a clear way to say it. I'm glad it's termed, because when you term something, everything becomes so much more clear, and you have power over it. So that for me was a great insight. Um, the third one, oh gosh, there are so many really cool insights that I've gotten. Um, Perhaps it's Carlo Benen's. So Carlo had shown some really fantastic different kinds of workflows. And he's also a very energetic and enthusiastic person. And when I spoke
Yeah.
to him, I felt like there's so much there's so much more we can do. Like, for example, even though might be painting a kind of sad picture saying that in 2030 the roles are reduced, or in 2040 everything is reduced, we don't know. For example, just want to put it
Mm.
out there. But when I spoke to Carlos, he's so enthusiastic, and he raised all these opportunities and different kinds of workflows, different kinds of opportunities and that people can try, and he has so many ideas in his head, and he wants to try this and do that and test that I feel like, yeah, that's the way to do it. Like that's the thing that we should be more focused on, the new way of doing things, the new workflows, trying to do things. We have these new tools in our hands. Yes, admittedly we're a little passive because we're architects, and then the tools are given to us by people who have been coding, programming, and doing the AI development. Yes. But then what we can do is we can use these tools to see what we can make out of it, or how, right? So that's a whole new era, a whole entire new explorative um, field. So when people say they want to study architecture, I would say, do you want to make architecture? You want to create architecture, or do you want to create the way we make architecture? Because now we're at this point where that's actually quite open, you know
Mm.
to to make architecture. At the end of the day, it's down to who is paying, right? I mean, architects, famous architects, well-known architects can give their opinions and give their proposals, but at the end of the day, the person approving is either authorities or people with money. So when you want to study architecture, do you want to try to become the king's advisor, or are you actually more interested to find out the different ways that um, a concept can be made, different ways that creativity can be made, that someone can be creative? There are they're different. They're different. Do people understand that? And I feel like when I got into architecture school, that wasn't clear to me at all. You know?
Mm, interesting. Yeah, like it also made me think that okay, if you made an architecture out of mid journey, how much is the architect's role in curating the prompts versus the person who developed the AI model versus the data side it was trained, like who's making
Yeah.
impact? Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, that's a good viewpoint. Or that's a good thing that you raised. Yeah, for me, I think I think here's the thing. Taking one step back, how important is it to have ownership over one's design? So what I mean is when I was studying, I was so proud of my design concepts. You know, I always thought, you know, even when there were group projects, I would always volunteer that I want to do it alone because I was so, you know, feeling like I want, you know, want this whole entire concept to be my own. Then now I think completely the opposite. I think even if you're working with, you know, without AI in a traditional way, your design is never your own. It's always you and the structural engineers, civil engineer, all those consultants input, most of the input from the clients and then the actual person building it, the builder, you know, the builder themselves, like each person who is actually having their hands on the material. How do you even say who this built thing belongs to? It's just
mm,
that AI now is it's it's just one more tool. It's just one more tool and it's just one more you know, way to get it done. So in that perspective, I didn't really see that it was that much different. And then I also asked, is it that important to, I mean, legally, yes, like there would be those implications, right? Ownership and stuff like that. And it's always important to look at the terms and conditions of AI. So, for example, Midjourney's terms and conditions have explicitly said that whoever prompts an image has the right to use it however they want, but Midjourney keeps the um, keeps the right to reuse it in other ways. And if you're
oh,
not happy with that, yeah, if you're not happy with that, um, A, get the most expensive plan, and B, get your lawyer. So that's what they write in their website, right? Yeah. So but other than the legal part, in terms of how one feels about their ownership of a design, I would say you know, um, my friends, yeah, take a step back to think like what it really means and why it doesn't matter.
interesting. Is there any aspect about AI you're worried?
Hmm. Interesting. What about you? Are you worried about anything about AI? I'm throwing it back to you while I think about the answer.
That was smart move. No, like it's like I think too much power in one hands is always danger. Like even with, you see with open AI, and so I'm I would like a more democratized access of AI.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I see. Yes, that's definitely a big concern. That's definitely a big concern. I would say that is like a global issue, a global concern. And if I zoom into the scale of just me as an individual, um, I actually don't have concerns of on AI. I feel maybe at this moment, I don't know how I feel in 2030, but at this moment I feel very optimistic about the opportunities that are out there. And I'm optimistic that this could potentially, which looks like another problem for architects because it looks like it's going to take more control away from architects. I would like to switch that around to think that that could be the solution to how we've been always been badly paid and long hours and things like that. So I can see that as the technical solution to our current problems. But that is just in my like personal perspective. But yeah, zooming out, definitely, I agree with you on that aspect.
I see. So Adeline, is there anything which we didn't cover in this interview? and you'd like to share on that topic or note?
Okay, okay. Interesting. Um, there are many things I love to share. Um, Perhaps more in a more general note, not just in AI. Um, I would say that to many people who speak to me and share with me their doubts and their journeys and their frustrations in this industry, perhaps I'd just like to say that I think it's absolutely understandable how they feel, like how they feel the fear and how they feel the frustration. Um, and I might give a little tough love and just actually say that yeah, we're here now. You've to someone who had been in the industry for 3, 4 years or had gotten their license and studied all their life in architecture. Yes, that happened. So it's either look for another career, look for another industry, or accept that this is changing. First, accept it, and then you can find out how you want to learn it and find the solutions, and be very open-minded and flexible about it. I see that some people are very focused on currently their problems, and currently they try to like maybe deny that things are changing for them. And I would really encourage them to look beyond that. Yeah.
Interesting. Yes. And from my observation, we see a lot of discourse in the industry about the visualization aspect of AI affect how
Hmm.
it's affect architecture. Some discourse on the education. Are there any discourse which people are not talking about, or it's not being discussed enough, which you want to highlight?
Oh, that's another great question. Um, yes, you're right that there are so many courses on text to image and visualization and Unreal Engine. I would, I definitely think actually one thing might be lacking, or maybe I'm not exposed to right now, is more education on how to optimize the development potential.
Mm,
Meaning, like in the feasibility stage of a site, for example, what the client cares the most about actually is the development potential. Maybe in the real estate realm, in the real estate world, they're doing that. But I'd say as architects, if one wants to be profitable or wants to be appointed as architects, they need to show that their added value. And maybe their added value is that they're able to use computational design or AI to help the clients to reduce the period of time of doing the feasibility studies, or helping them work out how to populate a floor plan with different typologies or preset typologies, something really practical like that. Because ultimately, in my personal opinion, with the text to image kind of workflows, let's say I can say, okay, I can do 20 iterations in 5 seconds. In no time, someone is gonna jump out. Some very tech savvy person is gonna jump out and say, you know what, I can do it in 1 second. So what do? Are we just undercutting each other and to the bottom, race to the
mm,
bottom? Is that what we're gonna do? So I kind of feel like yes, there's this first wave of using AI to generate concepts, and maybe that's going to become very popular and saturated. But what's next would be, something that brings more value to the clients, and that has to do with the BOQ, with the procurements, with streamlining supply chain. That sort of stuff is going more and more deep into the technical side, the more of the data. And I also feel like myself included, I need to kind of upskill myself continuously. I need to continue to take courses in how to manage data. And there are some out there, but I'd say it can become more popular, right? How to kind of go a little more into the computer science world, so then we kind of it becomes like an undeniably interdisciplinary um, kind of industry. It needs to become that. So I think more discussion should be on that. Ultimately, we're going from a graphic driven design mode to data driven. It has to be that. And are we ready for that transition? Actually, before we're ready, it's going to come anyway. So maybe we should all get ready. So that's kind of my point of view.
It's such a great point. Like so, like I'm in the trenches in the development. A lot of people like fear like these tools are generally intelligent. Whatever it sees on the internet, it does. But like a lot of construction drawings are not there in the internet. Like there's no like AI model which is really good at taking a floor plan image and digitizing it like structured data.
Exactly.
There is
Yeah.
no really good AI which can do auto labeling or annotation for construction drawing or
Yeah.
detailing. So there's so many
Exactly.
opportunities, and it's where like I think as an industry, if we collaborate and if we build tools ourselves for the betterment of the society. Because what I'm a bit afraid as well is, okay, let's say if the power goes to developer and they have all the access, they'll just say make
Yeah.
a development that maximizes profit and might not
Yeah.
have the good daylight experience for the end user because it's
Exactly. Yeah.
so. I don't know how
Yeah.
how would you
Absolutely.
optimize that?
Yes. I think. Yeah. Sorry. Come again. I think I overlapped with you.
No, sorry, I was asking like how would you optimize like this problem where okay developer wants maximum profit, architects wants
Mm.
great end user experience, like
Yeah.
any thoughts on that?
Yeah. No. Absolutely. I think optimizing building development potential is something that they have in mind as the first thing in their mind. I think currently already there are machine learning systems that optimizes sunlight and energy use, etc. I think this is probably not an AI discussion, but more just as an architect in general. How do we, as like a more morality, like the ethics part of being an architect? How do we kind of balance that? How do we encourage the developer to ensure that the users get the spatial quality that they want?
Mm,
And from my point of view, I'd say if the design or if the developer or the client is refusing to go forward with the spatial, bring forward the spatial quality as a priority, um I don't think that's a very good client to work with.
mm,
That's number one. But then I would also say that actually is not very common, because in order for things to get built around the world, we still need to go through building regulations, and building regulations are actually the systems that secure these bits, the spatial quality. So that's very interesting, because coming back to this, it is not within the control of the architect. It is within the control of the building authorities around the world. It is politics, and it's unfortunately top down. So actually, a lot of talks had been in design studios about, oh, how can the architect make things better, and how do they bring light in, how do they make sure there's ventilation? Yeah, of course those are important. That's like without saying, of course those are important. But who and what is actually controlling this is the client and the building regulations. But now we can use AI to help us to match the building regulations the to the final design output. Actually, one of the ideas that is not yet my startup is on working on that right
ah
now. So we have a lot of discussions on that. And there are actually also many Scandinavian companies, startups, who are, edging towards this direction as well. So I do have faith that even if we don't get there first, there would be other people who will reach to that point. And if so many of us are going towards that goal, we will meet there at the end. And let's say maybe in 2030, we would have an AI to read plans and construction documents and etc. like that. Yeah, I think it's already being developed.
I see. All right, Adeline, I have one final section. It's gonna be
Sure.
very tough. It's a
Okay.
rapid fire round. No, no, I'm just building it.
Wow.
Uh,
Oh my God.
you'll you'll have 5 to 10 seconds to answer it, and you have to answer it super brief, like not more than 5 words. Uh,
Okay. All right.
or your favorite architect.
uh, I don't have one.
All right. Your favorite movie.
Logan,
Your role model.
Stephen Bartlett.
Uh, your favorite architecture building.
um, I also can't say I have a favorite one.
Okay. Are you a mountain person or a beach person?
Beach.
I see. Your favorite
So
book?
sea in Bali. Yeah. Favorite book, Invisible Women.
I see. 3 words that describe you.
Okay. Wow, this is hard. Yeah. I would say driven, um, persistent, and tough.
I see. One thing that most people don't know about you, but would be surprised if they get to know.
But I'm actually quite sensitive, even though I don't seem to be.
I see. One city which is in your travel bucket list.
Berlin. I haven't been. I really want to go.
I see. And last, if you had unlimited time and money, what is one thing that you would do first?
I would employ or consult all the friends that I have who do not have a job right now in architecture.
Perfect. I had a great time hosting you, Adeline. It was indeed a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great. You're so great questions and you're a great interviewer. And I wish you all the best in your own work and this continuous series that you have.
I see. Likewise. Looking forward to your startup and AAL. So, bye.
Thank you. We should